fighter, are you ready? Are you ready? Let's do this.
Hi, family. I want to welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Gold Corner. Every episode is special, but this one is also extra special for me. When I created the Gold Corner, for those people that are new to the channel, I just wanted to create this platform. I wanted to create an atmosphere, just a platform where we can speak about our warriors, those children that have battled childhood cancer, the ones that have battled and have earned their wings, or the ones that are currently battling, and the ones that have actually at one point battled and have beat it. So I just wanted to create this so we can speak about them, so we can talk about everything that they've gone through. People have a misconception of childhood cancer because of what they see on TV, what they see on commercials, but it's not like that. That's a very small percentage. When you see them smiling, when you see them going through all these things, yes, us as parents, we do see that, but we also see the other 95% that is literally, like a parent described it last week. It's hell. You know, everything that they have to go through, everything that we have to see our children go through. It's not as what these commercials put them out to be. So when I created this, I just wanted to bring the reality of what this monster is, childhood cancer, and to speak about these warriors and to speak about how hard they have fought and they're continuing to fight. And all this while having a smile on their face, even though they're going through pain and they're going through everything that they're going, they still manage to smile. So that's why I had created here the Gold Corner, and also a place where we can just talk, just where we can be a family. I wanted to create that family atmosphere, and I thank God that that's been one of the things that has been hitting. I've been getting a lot of parents talk to me, a lot of parents reach out to me in the support group as well. And we have been a blessing and a help to a lot of parents. And all these parents have been a blessing to me because every time they give advice, they speak to me first, and I take that advice first. So I just wanted to say thank you. Welcome to all our new audience. If you still haven't done so, just hit the little subscribe button to help us spread childhood cancer awareness a little bit more. This week is, again, like I said, very special. We're going to be hearing the story of this beautiful baby girl. And I had the pleasure of meeting Tyler Walker. And I met Ty through another cancer mom that we had spoken about. And we reached out, and we've been actually talking back and forth about projects that we've done. They had an amazing podcast 2 weeks ago speaking about grief and loss, where they had seven different families, which was me included. And I want to thank you for taking me into consideration. That we were a panel, and we were able to talk to Ty and her co-host, the other half of the dynamic duo of the Golden Voices, to be able to speak to them about grief and loss. So I just want to say thank you very much. It is my honor. It's a pleasure to have Tyler and Kellen
Yeah.
here with us today. Walker, thank you so much. Ty is the creator of Bridges of Gold. She's going to be speaking to us about that organization, an amazing organization that I've had the opportunity, I guess, to be a part of. And I consider myself blessed and lucky to be able to work together with Ty, with this organization, and how it led to the Golden Voices. But I'm not going to speak much about it. I will let her talk about it. But first, we want to hear the story of her brave little warrior, and we have a little surprise also during the story here a little later on. So, Ty and Kellen, thank you so much for not only just being a part of this, but for being my friends and being my family. I had mentioned, Ty, I consider you all family. I think we're all a part of this broken family, but we're broken together, which is the nice part about it. You know, you have to find the silver lining in everything that happens. So thank you very much for agreeing to be here on the Gold Corner. And like I do every week, the floor is yours, and we want to hear about your warrior.
Yeah, thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
Yeah, I think the start of Lucy's journey, or when we first started to notice it, was probably the summer of 2017. We were on the Oregon coast on a vacation that we take every year, and Lucy just kind of seemed like she didn't have a lot of energy, and she had always been the kid that we were trying to have to wrangle and keep from getting out of control or jumping off beds or going crazy. So it was just kind of a little different to see her with a different mindset and just the way she moved around and seemed tired. But we kind of shrugged it off. It was at the end of a long summer and thought maybe we'd just been running around a little too much. So we kind of moved on, got done with the vacation, went through the fall. Her older sister kind of got back to school, and she still seemed tired. She was taking naps. She had never been a napper. So especially Ty was really kind of in tune with that, with her energy and how she wasn't feeling, probably as well as she had. And it all kind of came together on Halloween of that year. She got dressed up, and we usually go downtown and go from store to store and let them trick or treat in that fashion. And we made it through like 3 stores, and she said she's ready to go home. She was exhausted. And so that, putting all the pieces together, it just wasn't our Lucy that we'd grown to know for the first 3 years of her life. So Ty pushed and decided on November 2nd, she had her normal annual wellness checkup. And so Ty took her to that, and she asked if we could get some blood work done just to see if she was short in some vitamins or something maybe she wasn't getting in her diet. So Ty pushed for that to get that blood drawn, and the doctor was a little hesitant at first because she didn't think there was much wrong. But I mean, thank God that Ty did push and do that and give the little extra nudge to the doctor. And so on November 3rd, they had their blood drawn, or Lucy's blood drawn. And by that afternoon, Ty had received a phone call that Lucy needed to get up to OHSU, and she contacted me at work, and I met him up there. And that was kind of how the pre-treatment segment of the story went, so to speak.
And so we had eventually arrived. It was a Friday, and we had to travel about an hour and a half up from Monmouth to Portland, because that's where OHSU Dornbecker's Children's Hospital is. It happened to be a Friday, so it took a little bit longer just with traffic. I think we finally arrived at Dornbecker's about 5:30, maybe about 5:30, 6 o'clock. And I just remember, we'd walked up to the desk, and they were already waiting for us. They were like, "Oh, we're happy that Lucy has finally arrived." And so I remember Lucy stepping through the doors. None of us really had any idea what was going on. And I just remember that the nurse had asked Lucy to step onto the scale. And so she stepped onto the scale, and all of a sudden, a second nurse had popped over, and she goes, oh, honey, you're so gray. And I just happened to, she was commenting on the color of Lucy's skin because she had looked so pale. And I kind of did one of those like double checks, like, what? Lucy looks fine. Like, this is what she always has looked like. And it kind of, I was thinking, maybe there's something going on, but I still didn't know quite what it was. And so they'd finally taken Lucy back to her room in the ER, and instantly, they started hooking up IVs and hooking up every monitor that you could think of to kind of figure out what was going on. And we sat there for a few hours, and we still didn't really know. No one would really say anything to us. So we just kind of sat there and just kind of waited. And I just remember the doctors and the nurses coming in and saying, we're preparing a room for you upstairs. And it had been a few hours. I think it had been 2 hours since we had first arrived at the ER. And I said, preparing a room for upstairs. And, all of this information is just coming so fast. And then finally, the doctor had come back in, and this was the first time that they had mentioned. It was probably about 2.5 hours after, and he said, I'm sorry, we think your daughter has cancer. And I just remember hearing those words, and instantly everything just kind of stopped, and thinking, okay, well, what do we have to do next? I was, all the million things were going through my mind, and I had this little person who was just sitting there waiting on the bed, really not even knowing what was going on. And I think we ended, by that point, it was about 7:30. And I remember that we didn't even get up to 10 South is the oncology floor at Dornbecker's. And I think we finally arrived up there at 9:45. So we still had a couple of hours just kind of sitting in the ER, kind of taking in all of this information, and really still not knowing, what they were going to do or how we were going to get through this. And so I remember sitting on the bed with Lucy as they rolled us through all of these back halls and special doors that they had to open with badges. And, we finally got into the elevator, and when the doors opened, they said, "We're here on 10 South." And it was just one of those like really eerie feelings that everyone was, waiting for us, that, I thought they were excited to see us, but they came in with open arms and loving hearts, and were just ready to kind of take on what our family needed. And I just remember sitting down on the edge of the bed with two doctors that one of them was Dr. Parker. And we were so fortunate to have her through Lucy's entire treatment. And then we also had another doctor who sat in, but he was really close to retirement. So we ended up switching doctors. He wasn't going to be Lucy's doctor, but he was there that night. And they kind of just sat down with us and kind of told us, what they knew. They diagnosed Lucy with leukemia, ALL, but in that first night, we didn't know the type of leukemia that she had. It would be a couple more days. They needed to do some further testing and some other blood work to make sure they knew the exact diagnosis. But yeah, Lucy was diagnosed with leukemia, ALL on November 3rd, 2017. So let's see. So the first initial part of Lucy's journey, it seems kind of like a whirlwind. It went really, really fast. We kind of talked a little bit about what this leukemia roadmap would look like for us as we moved into this new journey. And we ended up staying, I think our first initial stay was until the 9th of November, so November 9th, 2017. And during that time, Lucy was started immediately on chemotherapy and kind of started with her treatment plan. And then with leukemia ALL, most of the time, patients would receive most of their treatments outpatient. So after their first initial, 5 days to about a week, I think is about what ended up happening for us. We ended up, I'm trying to think. I'm sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought.
No, we just kind of settled into the routine of, Lucy was in there that first part, getting treatment. We were really blessed to have a family that we were able to stay with close to the area, because with Grace, she couldn't stay overnight. So Grace and I had to find a place to go overnight. So we were just kind of working back and forth and settling into the new normal. And that's about the time that Lucy started having these weird fevers, and she said her leg was really hurting, and we weren't sure what it was. The doctors weren't sure what it was, and they thought it was a possible infection, but the blood culture would go in and it would take 48 hours and we'd get released, and then all of a sudden it would turn positive for something, and they couldn't figure out exactly what the infection was. But that kind of added a wrinkle into the treatment plan that Ty was talking about, because the normal roadmap, you do the little bit at the beginning and then most of it's outpatient, but we ended up being inpatient for close to, maybe a little over a month, because Lucy had developed a MRSA infection in one of her quads. And so that just made everything a little bit more complicated. And once doctors knew what it was, they were able to attack it quick and get her on antibiotics and do all the right things. But it was just the finding out what it was and believing a 3-year-old when she said her leg hurt and she couldn't walk, because there were certain times where I don't think people thought she was telling the truth. And, we really, not in a bad way, but just, the tests weren't coming back the way they thought it should. And so you're just telling the 3-year-old, you're fine. I think it's all right. But, you got to be an advocate for your kid and the person that's going through the treatments and the process, and be an advocate for your kid, especially if they're that young, because they're not always able to stand up for themselves. Not that not everyone wants the best thing. Everyone wants the best, but sometimes you do have to kind of take a stand and say, this isn't going to work. We got to figure out what's going on so we can attack it and move forward with it in a positive fashion.
So after Lucy's MRSA diagnosis, we stayed inpatient until December 21st. So she ended up, the diagnosis of MRSA was on November 23rd. So it was actually Thanksgiving morning. Yeah. And we got the phone call at 5 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning and said, you guys need to get back to Dornbecker's. There's an infection. And so we spent, like Kellen had mentioned, over the next few weeks just trying to find the right antibiotics combination. I think at one point she was on 3 different.
Yeah, because it kept coming back. They couldn't shake it for some reason.
Yeah, so they were trying some different antibiotics to see if they would work individually, but I think we ended up using 3, and then they backed down to 2 different types of antibiotics to try to fight this MRSA infection, which had developed in her quad. So during that time, Lucy ended up having a drain put into her leg, and over that, it still was just a few weeks, but over that time, her strength and ability to walk really decreased. And so we spent the next few weeks with physical therapy and just trying to gain strength and mobility back. At one point, I know Laura and I talk about this in one of our Golden Voices episodes, but there was a time when Lucy had a baby walker. So we'll have to share that photo with you guys at some point. But, it was really quite an interesting start to this journey. I think for a lot of families who have this leukemia ALL diagnosis, things look a little bit different. But I do think that we all go through some trials and tribulations. And I always say that there isn't one diagnosis that the picture and the journey is going to look the exact same. And so this was kind of our little bump in the road that kind of started our journey out. And I remember at one point, Kellen and I talking about how we felt like the MRSA happened to be like the hardest challenge at the time. Like cancer took a side, got pushed to the side a little bit because we were just trying to deal with this infection. But I think after they kind of figured everything out, Lucy had, I would say, I'm not really sure. I think the rest of her journey and roadmap looked very similar.
She had her good days and bad, but yeah, she did pretty well. She was tough and grinded through the whole thing, and never complained. I was just trying to put myself in that situation, going through those treatments, and then putting a 3-year-old in how she just stood up to it and squared up to it and just decided to keep pushing forward. And like Ty said, the journey is usually not a straight line. It's not A to B. So everyone has their different detours that they're going to take, but you just got to keep finding roads that are going to lead you to the end, and keep supporting Lucy, or your child as best you could. And, Ty was so good being there she was in lockdown too, because Lucy was in isolation with that infection, and I was going in and out with Grace. But those two were doing art and just trying to find all kinds of things to stay busy and stay active as Lucy kept moving forward with treatments.
So yeah, I think that was kind of the first initial start. And so we ended up getting out of the hospital on the 21st of December. And we ended up staying just, a day or two just to make sure that nothing else popped up before we headed back to Monmouth. And we were fortunate to finally head home on December 23rd, so 2 days before Christmas, and was welcomed by family and some friends who had, decorated the house for us. And I think Grace ended up going back and helping her Grammy decorate the house. So it was just a really warm welcoming to bring Lucy back home and to kind of figure out this new journey and what that would look like, kind of from the outpatient side instead of being inpatient and receiving all of the treatment. So through that, like Kellen had mentioned, I think Lucy had her good days and her bad days, but she was always
there's a lot more good than bad. She had a lot of good days.
Yeah, I would say that she was pretty strong, and she took it like a champ, and always wore that big smile, which was very, very contagious and continues to be contagious today. And just a really happy go lucky personality. And just depending on where we were in Lucy's treatment, some weeks we were going up every week to the clinic and seeing Lucy's doctors. I remember there was a time where it was like every other week, and then it was every month. And so with leukemia ALL, it ended up being, I think, 2.5 years.
Yeah, for a female, yeah.
Yeah, since Lucy was a girl, her treatment course was about 2.5 years. And then we look at, as we were kind of coming down to the end of Lucy's journey, We were ringing in the year of 2020 as one of our most favorite years. I know other people might have some other things to say about the year of 2020, but for us, Lucy finished her final cancer treatment.
February, right?
No. On January
January,
on
sorry,
January 30th,
Yeah.
2020. So Lucy took her last chemo medication, and then in February, just a few short weeks later, she had her port removed.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was a really exciting time for Lucy. One of my most favorite things about Lucy is she actually kept her port, and it sits on her desk in this little jar with the orange lid. And she's very proud of it.
Shows everybody, yeah.
Yeah, she shows it for show and tell, and anyone who wants to see it, Lucy's very excited to share her port. So, and I think Lucy just turned 6 in July. So she celebrated her 6th birthday. So she's come a long ways in just a few short years. She is in 1st grade now, and she is really loving school. And it's been really fun to see her reading and learning so many new things that at one point, we weren't sure if we would make it to that point. So we're just really excited to be here and on your show. Joelle, we really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing where these partnerships and together, as we work together and move forward, to see where it goes. So
that is so that's an amazing story. It's one of these stories that makes you smile, and I'm sure seeing her smile throughout the entire thing, like you were saying, you have a lot better days and worse days. I mean, that just gives you the strength. There's a lot of times where we don't have the strength, and just that little flash of smile makes you gives you that strength that you need. So I know that you because of everything that you went through, you created bridges of gold. So if you can talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. So I think Bridges of Gold, I originally had started it, I think, back in 2019. We knew that we were so fortunate and blessed by many, many organizations and people who supported us and loved us through our entire journey with Lucy, that we knew at some point we wanted to be able to help and give back. At first, maybe we thought that we would start our own organization, or a nonprofit, and look to see what areas that needed to be filled. At another point, I remember thinking, we might just tag team and join up with other organizations who are already doing amazing work and just continue to share what they're doing and how they're helping families like ours through this cancer journey. And then finally, I just decided, why don't we try to find something that maybe encompasses everything, and celebrate the amazing work that organizations are doing to help families. But also we identified, along our journey, that families who are on this cancer journey don't necessarily find resources that they might need during this journey.
At the time they might need it.
At the time of when they need it. And so I just wanted to, when I created Bridges of Gold, I knew that the communication between families and these organizations who are dedicated to serving these families and assisting and helping them through this journey, I just really felt that there was just a slight communication gap. And I thought, you know what can I do to try to help fill this and be able to continue helping these families like ours through this journey, but also celebrating the amazing work that these organizations are doing, because the work that they are doing is really what helps families like ours and other families who are navigating this journey, make it through the journey. I know Kellen and I have said this, there would have been no way in hell that we could have done this by ourselves. It really takes a tribe and a loving group of people. Some of them you've known your entire life, and some people you have never even met, that they have somehow come along with you on this journey and fell in love with your family and just want to love and support you. And so I just really think that with Bridges is that I just wanted to be able to kind of showcase and show all of these really great things that are happening, but really at the end of the day, these families were missing. There was just this missing link. And I thought that, you know what, I'm going to try to solve this problem, because that's one thing about me, is I'm always here to try to fix and solve whatever I can do. So the work behind Bridges of Gold is that we would, streamline and help connect these families with the organizations. When I talk about organizations, I'm talking about nonprofits who are dedicated to assisting and helping these families. And so we wanted to be able to make that communication better. And as this work is continuing to evolve, because it's still very new, I wanted to be able to have a space where nonprofits who are helping these families have a space to be able to be recognized and highlighted and connected, and that we would share their amazing work and help others learn about them, to be able to continue to support them and help them. But in turn, really, it's really going back to helping these families who are on this cancer journey. And so along the way, of course, one of my many ideas that I always have that keep popping up is, I said, well, before I even launched Bridges, I said, why don't we do a podcast and share a little bit about these organizations and these families and the people who are behind childhood cancer, and really give them an avenue to be spotlighted and to share that work with others and to be able to help. So Bridges of Gold is here to help these families connect with these organizations, but I also think these organizations are going to have direct communication with these families, which is also important. And then I also hope that at some point organizations start connecting with each other and learning about the work that they are doing as an individual organization, but how can we work together and start fulfilling the needs that we're still identifying that may not be met yet. And so just really opening that line of communication for everyone to work together and to be here together and to support each other, because that's what I believe this journey and how we've gotten through this journey is because of that, because of love and support and togetherness. And as I continue to hear other families speak on their journeys and to hear about the organizations that have assisted them, I meet other amazing people like you, Joelle, that are out there sharing really important information and helpful information for these families. And I just really believe that if we can do this together, I believe that we can just go a lot further and we can help these families. And a lot of them have really specific individual needs. So what might be a need for one family looks really different to another family. So just being able to identify these organizations, and that's what we've done at Bridges of Gold. We've created, a map that allows families to search by state, but then also look at the area of service that these organizations, what is the work that they're doing? And we've put them into specific categories to help families. So from one day it might be financial and the next day it might be experience. And so just kind of allowing families to say, okay, what do we need today? Or, and what is out there to help us? And I just wanted to create this space that just really allowed families to find what they needed and have organizations be able to share the amazing work that they're doing, because it is also so important.
It is, and I think that's very important. Like you're saying, the love and support is what gets you through all of this. There is absolutely no way that you can do it by yourself. It just isn't. So I think what you're doing with Bridges of Gold is just amazing. And to my knowledge, at least, I don't think there's anything out there that is connecting that. And I like the whole name behind it, Bridges, because you are connecting all these organizations to the parents based on their needs, like you were saying. And I just think that's amazing. And then you were talking about the podcast as well, and I know you did. It takes some classes to do this whole podcasting, and now you do have a podcast that I want you to talk to me a little bit about. We did touch on it at the beginning of the video, and as I was mentioning, for you guys that still haven't had an opportunity, all these links that Ty and Kellen are talking, we're going to go ahead and post them so you guys can check them out. But I was able to be a part of a panel of this podcast, and I was not. I wasn't expecting anything, when we first got on there. I said, we're just going to go in there and talk. It turned into like a 3-hour conversation, and we were on Zoom, and it came out to where we're actually meeting now periodically. We're going to be meeting this OG cancer parent group that we have created. And I just think that's so cool. And just the way we all connected with, I know you had met a couple of the parents, but for me, it was the first time meeting everybody, with the exception of Rachel. But it was brand new meeting everybody. And we just talk like we've been family and friends for years. So I just think that what you are doing with the Golden Voices, I think that's amazing. Can you talk to us a little bit about that as well, please?
Yeah, so like I had mentioned a little bit, I know I touched a little bit earlier, but Golden Voices just kind of popped into my head one day, and I had never really been a podcast listener before. Kellen had been listening to podcasts way before I even thought about doing this, and thought it would be a really great idea. But when I started thinking about Golden Voices, I knew that I didn't want to do it by myself. And as though I think sometimes I'm funny, but Kellen might have other things to say about that, I thought it would be really great to be able to involve my friend Laura, who I was so fortunate to meet on a random inpatient stay with Lucy. We were on our way in, and they were on their way out of their treatment with their son Mac, and Laura and I just happened to start to meet. She popped up into our room, and we started this conversation, and it turned out we only ended up living about 10 minutes away from each other. She was down in Salem, and we were in Monmouth, and so we just hit it off. I think when you meet Laura, and she is just a very loving person. She has a very outgoing personality, and she is just gonna pull you in, and you're friends for life. That's kind of how I feel about it. She's just so wonderful. And I thought, you know what? Why wouldn't I? Why couldn't I bring someone else on to help me with this? And I thought Laura would be the great person to do that. So yes, so Laura and I co-host a podcast together called Golden Voices. And we just really wanted to give listeners, whether you're a cancer family or somebody who is new to kind of learning about childhood cancer, kind of similar to what you're doing, Joelle, letting people understand what the reality of childhood cancer looks like, kind of just the ins and outs of it, and what we experienced on our cancer journey, but maybe to give a little bit of advice on what others could possibly experience. And so we have just been so blessed to be able to have some really wonderful guests on our show for season 1. And so for season 1, we've had organizations, we've had cancer survivors, and we have also just been able to talk childhood cancer. something that Laura and I really love doing. I know it sounds so kind of ironic and weird, but we just really enjoy spending time with each other, and then really sharing information that we felt would be really important for families and anyone who might be listening to just learn about childhood cancer and how they can get involved. And so we just finished episode 13, like Joelle, like you had mentioned. We knew at some point that we were going to need to do a grief and loss episode. It's one of those things that does come along with this journey. And we wanted to make sure that we provided information that was relevant and real. And for Laura and our outcomes were very different from Joelle's and the other families who joined us on that call. And it was just so amazing to hear, everyone's story and how they are dealing with grief and loss. And I think that this type of conversation and meeting, I think, was really powerful. And I think there was a lot of great information that was shared. And so, yeah, I just want to thank you again, Joelle, for joining us. We felt very honored that you would join us and to share a few people who you have come along with on this journey and being able to include them in that. So that was really wonderful. And Laura and I are wrapping up. We have one more episode for season 1 that's going to come out in December. Decided that we want to do a fun kind of episode, but also give some obviously helpful information. What not to say is kind of, I think, what our episode is going to be about, and things that we hear while on this cancer journey, and advice that we get from others who unfortunately haven't gone through this journey, but we hope to share some light and some laughs and just maybe provide some helpful information. So we're just getting ready to wrap up with season 1, and we're super excited for season 2. Joelle is going to be joining us for season 2, along with some really wonderful guests from across the nation. And we hope to share more organizations and the work that they're doing. So thank you for letting us share a little bit about Golden Voices.
The thing I like about the show too is I think when you're going through it, even if there's people on your floor, you're getting to know people, it still seems like you're pretty isolated, right? But I think having shows like hers and yours, which is so cool, is it gives you that sense, like you said, of family, and other people are having to go through the same thing. So let's work together and move forward instead of just sitting there and feeling, bad about it. I think what she does and you is just so powerful to bring people together and let them know that they're not alone facing the battle ahead,
Yeah, Kellen, and for me, it took over 2 years. So, well, it took about 2 years for me to even do anything because I struggled so much. My depression was bad. My depression is even bad right now. But I know I needed to do something. I know I needed to make a change. And the more you hear about these warriors, the new kids that are being diagnosed, you just can't stay back. At least me, I just have this passion now for these kids, and I take them like if they're, my stepchildren, I these are my kids now too, these kids that are being diagnosed, these families, my brothers and sisters, just like you both are. And that's what I'm trying to do. And, like we did here, I actually have a lot of parents that have kids that do not have cancer, that have, a lot of parents that have reached out to me and said, Joel, thank you. We did not know that world existed. And I have a lot of parents that are sharing the stories. A lot of parents that are sharing, more than 4% and more, hashtagging all these things that they haven't gone through it. It's just their eyes have been open to this world that, unfortunately, a lot of people tend to turn away from it. They don't want to think that it exists, but we just we have to do something. So that's why I think it's amazing what you're doing, with Bridges and the Golden Voices. And I've actually stolen a couple of people from your Golden Voices. I had Hannah on one of the episodes. I had Mark and Kelly, And I'm gonna have a couple of other people, but it's just I think that the way we are together and the way that we're working, it's just bringing awareness, and that's what I want to do, is bring awareness, because this is sadly taking a lot of kids. A lot of kids are being diagnosed, and even though they're doing well, they still have gone through a lot, and they're currently going through a lot. And I have a situation where parents say that the doctors are saying, we tried everything that we can, there's just absolutely nothing we can do anymore. And it should not be that way. It shouldn't be that way. That's where that 4% comes in, that they don't have any more resources or anything else that they can do, because we only get that little bit, of funding for that. So I just think it's amazing. And I think that what you're doing and what you have created, and this is just snowballing. I think, this is picking up. And again, I really, really see Golden Voices and Bridges going to very big areas, very big places. I see this, like I said, snowballing into something very good. And it's awesome. And I think that the time is now, and I think it's picking up steam right just where it needs to be. So it's awesome. So yes, please check out Bridges of Gold and the Golden Voices. Again, those links are going to be on the description. So a couple of things here that I want to touch on. So where exactly are we on the roadmap? Is there a roadmap still, or is she completely cancer free at this point? Where are we as far as what she's doing? And if possible, I would like to meet her. So talk to us.
He's gonna go get her right now.
All right, awesome.
But yeah, she is completed her treatment. So they've removed all, her port. And she's cancer free. So that is so wonderful. For the first 6 months, I think she's coming, sorry.
Okay.
Hi. Hi, Lucy.
And there she is. Wow, look at her. You're so beautiful. How old are you?
6.
6. Oh, wow, that's so awesome. Lucy, I just wanted to say thank you, because you have given me a lot of strength, because you are a hero to me. I think that everything that you have gone through and what you're still doing, and the way you're doing it right now, baby girl, I think that's amazing. So I just wanted to say that that thank you so much for being my hero, and thank you for just being that beautiful little girl that you are. And this is your sister. Hi.
Hi. This
And
is our dog, Tommy.
Okay, what's his name or her name?
Tommy.
Oh, okay. Look at that. And Grace, how old are you?
9.
9. Okay. Well, it's a pleasure to meet both of you. And like I said, such a beautiful family. I love you guys, and I hope to one day meet you. You can meet this weird bearded uncle that you have over here in Texas. So, baby girl, just say hi to everybody. Is there anything you want to say? Anything you want to talk about?
Lucy, you got anything?
Lucy, what would you like to tell other kids who are fighting cancer?
What?
What would you like to tell other kids that are fighting cancer?
What?
Is there anything that you would want to tell other kids who are fighting cancer?
I don't know.
You don't want to tell them anything?
I don't know anything.
Well, just seeing her as an inspiration, just seeing that everything that she has gone through, it's truly amazing. So once again, baby girl, thank you. You and your big sister, thank you so much. Thank you for being a part of this. And just say hi to everybody that's watching you guys.
Hi, guys. Thank you.
Well, I was right in the middle. I was right in the middle of sharing a little bit of where Lucy was in her treatment
Correct.
when they came in. So I apologize about that. So Lucy, for the first 6 months, went in every month and received or didn't receive, and got her blood drawn and just kind of checking her levels to make sure everything is good. She recently was moved into every other month. So that has been really great. And so we are getting close. January is just around the corner since tomorrow is December 1st. We're getting close to a year. So she will go back. She actually has her appointment next week on the 8th. So we're just praying and continuing to just hope that she stays cancer free and that her body continues to heal and stay healthy. So that is that is really great. So
and we continue to pray with your family as well. We continue to pray for her, and that God does the work, complete, and does a complete healing. So we're here behind your family. We're here behind you, Lucy. We're in this gold corner together, and we're all here fighting with you. And you have a lot of people around the world that are praying for you as well, that love you, and that you're their hero as well. So thank you for that. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. So just a couple of other questions, if you still want to have them here.
You guys want to stay, or you want to go out with Tom?
Tommy, wait.
Okay, we're good. You want to go out with Tom?
That's what I've been doing.
So just as I do on every episode, I wanted to ask you both some questions. What advice would you give to parents that are going through what you did? And what advice would you give to parents that have perfectly healthy children?
I'd say the advice that took, I think, us a little bit to get used to. So I would just, encourage people from the beginning, like, don't be afraid to let people help you. I mean, I think initially, that's kind of been the theme for this episode, I think, but, understand that there are a lot of people there that are willing to help, and there's nothing wrong with letting people help you out during this situation, because it takes the whole village to make it to the end. Like we said, it's not a straight line, and it's just don't be too proud to let people help you, because they're there to help. So let them do their thing, because you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. I know Ty mentioned that earlier, but I think it took us a couple weeks to digest that and understand that it was okay if people helped you. We didn't need to do it by ourselves. So I think that would be my biggest thing.
And I think over time, just really trusting yourself as a parent, and that your children the best. And when you do notice things that have changed or might not be something that you have noticed before, just take note of that, and don't be afraid to ask questions. And if it's something that seems to be so significant that you think that your child is might not be well, I think that if you're feeling a certain way, that you should act on it. And I always believe that even through some of the things that happened through Lucy's treatment, that we know our children the best, and we know what their needs might be. And so just don't be afraid to be an advocate and to speak up when things might be different from what everyone is telling you. So I think that's something that we learned on this journey, and it's just important to be an advocate and trusting yourself as a parent, and do what's best for your family and do what's best for your child. So I think those are two really important things that we learned on this journey.
Exactly. And just being an advocate, like I said, for your kids, and don't be afraid to speak up. If something just doesn't feel right, be that person that asks questions, be that person that has a second or third opinions. Don't just if something's not right, they're not going to know your children like you do. So just be an advocate and just speak, because a lot of the times they don't have that voice, and you are their voice, and you will continue to be their voice. Okay, well, Ty and Kellen, thank you very much. Any last words that you want to share with us before we finish this?
Grace, do you have anything that you would like to share?
Not right now.
Not right now. Lucy, have you thought about it a little bit? Anything you would like to share?
I don't know.
Thanks for having us on, and
so much
thanks
for
for all that
having
you
us.
do. Yeah, it's awesome seeing you and Ty in your shows and helping people out. So thank you for letting us be a part of it. Appreciate it.
Of course, we're all family here, and you all are my family now. So just thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you do. I know that you stay up pretty late when you're doing the editing of your podcast. So thank you for doing that. So I encourage everybody to check out the Golden Voices podcast and the Bridges of Gold and see all the great work that Ty is doing there. Uh, Check it out. Like I said, I'm going to leave the link here in the description, so you can go on there, click on there, and just see what we're doing. Just see what we're doing for childhood cancer. I have the honor and pleasure of being in season 2 of the Golden Voices, and just the work that we're going to be doing together, not just us, but with a lot of other organizations. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gold Corner. Thank you so much. Remember to hit the little subscribe button, as that helps us promote childhood cancer awareness a little bit more, and just live each day to its fullest, because tomorrow is not promised. Remember to pray for your family, pray for your children, let's pray for our nation, and just make sure that we hold on a little while longer, because we're almost home. God bless you, and we'll see you next Sunday.